Ma'am, step away from the vehicle for me.
I'm just unloading groceries.
I
live right here.
I've had complaints about someone hanging around this street.
Hanging around? I just got home from the store.
All right. I need to see some ID.
I don't believe I'm required to.
Hands where I can see them. Don't make this harder than it needs to be.
Officer Marcus Hayes had no idea what he just walked into. In the next 72 hours, his daughter's life would hang by a thread, his career would fall apart, and the city would write a check for $20.5 million. The woman he was putting in handcuffs was Dr. Diane Morris. She was chief of pediatric surgery at Metropolitan Hospital. That's where Hayes' 8-year-old daughter had been waiting for 6 months, waiting for a new kidney. Dr. Morris had done over 3,000 surgeries. Her success rate was 98%. She'd created a new technique that helped kids recover twice as fast. Johns Hopkins tried to hire her twice. She said no both times. She wanted to stay in this community, and the camera in Hayes' police car was recording everything, including the moment his boss showed up and recognized her from hospital meetings. Before I continue, let me ask you this. Have you ever been treated like you don't belong somewhere you have every right to be? Drop your story in the comments. But Officer Hayes had no idea who he was arresting. Dr. Diane Morris was 42 years old. She'd spent 18 years in medicine. She went to Harvard Medical School. She did her training at Boston Children's Hospital. She had 2 special certifications, one for pediatric surgery, one for transplant surgery. She was the top pediatric transplant surgeon in the region. She personally managed the hospital's transplant list. She'd looked at Hayes' daughter Emma's file just 2 days before. In 11 days, she was supposed to do Emma's kidney transplant. Dr. Morris had lived in Oakwood Heights for 7 years. She was the first black woman to become chief of surgery at Metropolitan. She was known for doing free surgeries for families who couldn't afford them. That day, she was coming home after working for 14 hours. She'd saved 2 kids' lives that day. She had surgery again at 6 a.m. the next morning. On this Tuesday evening in October, Dr. Morris just wanted to unload her groceries and rest. She had no idea her neighbor had called the police. The neighbor told them a suspicious black woman was checking out houses. Now here's what Dr. Morris didn't know. Officer Marcus Hayes was 38 years old. He'd been a cop for 12 years. He worked as a patrol officer. In the last 3 years, he filed 47 reports about suspicious people. 73% of them were black people. He had 9 formal complaints in his file. He'd been passed over for promotion twice. Internal Affairs had flagged 6 incidents in 18 months. Every single one involved claims of racial profiling. In August, he stopped a black teenager for skateboarding in his own neighborhood. He kept him there for 45 minutes. He searched his backpack without any reason. In June, he questioned a black family at the community pool. He asked about their membership even though they had valid passes showing. In March, he pulled over a black businessman driving a nice car. He said the car matched a description, but there was no crime reported. His co-workers had a nickname for him. They called him Stop and Frisk Hayes. He'd been to bias training twice. The police union kept him from getting disciplined. His sergeant had written in his last review that there was a concerning pattern. Hayes had personal problems too. His daughter Emma was diagnosed with kidney failure 8 months ago. His wife Jennifer worked as a hospital administrator at a different hospital. He was under a lot of stress, but that didn't excuse the pattern. On October 17th, Hayes got a call about Maple Drive. This time, his bias would cost him everything, including the one person who could save his daughter's life. Let me know in the comments if you think stress excuses this kind of behavior. It was Tuesday, October 17th at 6:42 p.m. The address was 2847 Maple Drive in Oakwood Heights. This was an expensive neighborhood. Homes there cost between $600,000 and $900,000. Dr. Morris lived in a nice house with a blue door. It was fall. The temperature was dropping. Parents were walking their dogs. Kids were inside doing homework. The street lights were just turning on. It was quiet. Everyone supposedly knew everyone. But 94% of the neighborhood was white. Dr. Morris was one of 3 black homeowners on the whole street. At 6:34 p.m., a neighbor called 911. Her name was Margaret Brennan. She was 64 years old. She told them an unfamiliar black woman was going in and out of a house. She said the woman didn't look like she belonged there. She said she was carrying bags and might be stealing. The dispatcher marked it as a suspicious person call. Hayes arrived 8 minutes later at 6:42 p.m. Dr. Morris was making her 3rd trip from her car to her house. She was wearing scrubs under her coat. She had on surgical shoes. Her hospital ID was still clipped to her pocket. She was carrying grocery bags in both hands. Her Mercedes SUV was in the driveway. The garage door was open. Hayes walked up with his hand near his gun. He didn't notice the car matched the address. He didn't see the name on the mailbox. It said Dr. D. Morris. He was already being aggressive. Dr. Morris looked confused. She was in her own driveway. If stories like this matter to you, hit subscribe. We cover these cases every week. Hayes demanded her ID. He wouldn't say why. Dr. Morris asked if there was a problem. She explained she lived there. Hayes said, "That's not what the caller said." Dr. Morris pointed to her house. She pointed to her car. She pointed to her name on the mailbox. Hayes said, "ID now, don't make me ask again." Dr. Morris asked for his badge number. She said she would file a complaint. Hayes said, "You're not in a position to make demands." Dr. Morris stayed calm but firm. She said, "I don't have to show you ID on my own property." Hayes stepped closer. He was trying to scare her. He said, "You match a description." Dr. Morris said, "A description of what? A black woman?" Hayes said, "Don't make this about race." Dr. Morris slowly reached for her pocket to get her ID. Hayes shouted, "Hands where I can see them." Dr. Morris froze. She put her hands up. She said, "My ID is in my pocket. You asked for it." Hayes called for backup. He said, "I need another unit," subject being uncooperative. A neighbor from across the street came out. His name was Tom Chen. He said, "Officer, that's Dr. Morris. She lives there." Hayes ignored him. He told Dr. Morris, "Ma'am, turn around. You're being detained." Dr. Morris said, "For what? What crime?" Hayes said, "Resisting obstruction." Neither was true. Tom Chen started filming on his phone. He said, "This is wrong." Another neighbor came out. Her name was Sarah Williams. She said, "She's a surgeon. She lives here." Margaret Brennan came out too. She was the one who called. She realized her mistake. She went back inside. Hayes grabbed Dr. Morris's arm. He spun her toward his car. He put handcuffs on her even though she wasn't fighting. Dr. Morris's voice was shaking. She said, "I have surgery in the morning. I need my hands." Hayes said, "Should have thought of that before." Type justice in the comments if you think this was wrong. What Officer Hayes didn't know was huge. His daughter's donor match had come through that afternoon. Dr. Morris had the paperwork in her bag. She was supposed to review the surgical plan that night. In 11 days, she was scheduled to give Emma Hayes a chance at a normal life. Now she was in handcuffs because a neighbor thought she looked suspicious in her own driveway. At 6:56 p.m., Sergeant Bradley Wilson arrived. He saw Dr. Morris in handcuffs sitting on the curb. He recognized her right away. They served on the hospital community board together. He said, "Hayes, what are you doing?" Hayes said, "She wouldn't show ID, matched a suspicious person call." Dr. Morris said quietly, "I showed him my house, my car, my name on the mailbox. He didn't care." Sergeant Wilson looked around. He saw the groceries, the open garage, medical journals inside the house, her hospital ID clipped to her scrubs. Hayes said, "How was I supposed to know? She should have just done what I said." Sergeant Wilson asked Tom Chen what he saw. Tom said, "I told him 3 times she lives here. He wouldn't listen. I got it all on video. He never properly asked for ID. He just started threatening her." Sarah Williams said, "Dr. Morris has lived here for 7 years. She waves to my grandkids every morning." This is racial profiling. That officer decided she was guilty the second he saw her. Margaret Brennan came back out. She said, "I didn't recognize her. I thought something was wrong. I'm sorry, Diane. I should have known. You've been my neighbor for years." 3 other houses had Ring doorbell cameras. They all recorded it. The dispatch call was recorded too. You could hear Brennan's description. Hayes' body camera was on the whole time. He never turned it off. Sergeant Wilson watched the dashcam footage right there. He saw Hayes never properly explained why he was there. He saw Dr. Morris was calm. She was never aggressive. He saw Hayes get angry when she questioned him. There was no reason to arrest her. No crime was committed. Then Sergeant Wilson got a call on his radio. Someone said, "Bradley, is Dr. Morris with you? We need her back at the hospital. Emergency case." Hayes started to understand his mistake. He asked, "Wait, Morris, the pediatric surgeon?" Sergeant Wilson said, "Yeah, the one managing your daughter's transplant list." Hayes' face went white. He tried to apologize. He said, "Doctor, I didn't know." Dr. Morris said, "You didn't ask." Sergeant Wilson took off the handcuffs. Dr. Morris rubbed her wrists. They had red marks. She checked her hands carefully. "A surgeon's hands are everything." She said no to the ambulance. She said she needed to get to the hospital. By now, the full truth was sinking in. Hayes had just arrested the woman who could save his daughter's life. The surgeon who'd spent 18 years getting perfect at her job. The do. Seator, who'd called Emma an excellent candidate just 48 hours ago, and it was all on camera, multiple cameras. Tom Chen had already posted his video to the neighborhood Facebook group. By the time Dr. Morris left for the hospital, 847 people had watched it. They watched a cop handcuff an innocent black woman in her own driveway. Comment below what you would have done if you were the neighbor watching this happen. At 7:08 p.m., Sergeant Wilson called the chief of police. His name was Daniel Martinez. The chief arrived at 7:31 p.m. He talked to Dr. Morris. He talked to witnesses. He watched the footage. Hayes was put on leave right away. Internal Affairs was called to the scene. A detective named Rebecca Torres was assigned to the case. She collected all the video evidence. She talked to 8 witnesses. She looked at Hayes' personnel file. She pulled his last 6 months of body camera footage. She found a pattern. In 6 months, Hayes had stopped 11 black people. He didn't give a single ticket. They were harassment stops. Hayes' story started falling apart. He said Dr. Morris refused to identify herself, but the video showed her explaining who she was. She offered to show ID before he got aggressive. He said she was aggressive and wouldn't cooperate, but the footage showed her calm. Her hands were visible. She asked reasonable questions. He said he had reasonable suspicion based on the 911 call, but the dispatch log showed the caller just described a black woman with bags. No crime was mentioned. No threat was described, just a racial assumption. He said he followed proper procedure, but he never properly said who he was. He never explained the call. He never had a reason to arrest her. He broke the rules for detaining someone. Next day, October 18th, Hayes was suspended without pay. On October 19th, Dr. Morris filed a formal complaint with the department. On October 20th, the city attorney told them to settle fast. The video evidence was too strong. On October 23rd, they recommended firing Hayes. On October 25th, Dr. Morris filed a federal lawsuit. She said it was unlawful detention, racial profiling, a violation of her constitutional rights. Hayes kept denying it at first. He said, "I was just doing my job." Then he got angry. He said, "Everyone's making this about race." Then he got desperate. He called the hospital trying to apologize to Dr. Morris. The hospital wouldn't let him contact her. His wife Jennifer was embarrassed. She worked at a hospital too. She stayed away from him professionally. That night, Dr. Morris did an emergency surgery. She saved a 6-year-old's life. She took 2 days off to process what happened. The hospital offered her counseling. They gave her full support. Her neighbors brought flowers. They wrote apology notes. They offered to install security cameras for her. Tom Chen started a petition against racial profiling. 173 people signed it in 48 hours. Then came the complication. On October 21st, Emma Hayes' donor match was confirmed. On October 22nd, they scheduled surgery for October 28th. On October 23rd, Hayes' wife called the hospital. She asked, "Will Dr. Morris still do the surgery?" The hospital ethics board had an emergency meeting. Dr. Morris made a statement. She said, "A child's life isn't something to bargain with. I'll do my job, but her father needs to face consequences." If you respect what Dr. Morris did here, hit that subscribe button. We need more stories of people doing the right thing even when it's hard. Dr. Morris kept her professional duties separate from her personal hurt. She would save Emma Hayes because that's what surgeons do. But the system that let Marcus Hayes profile her without consequences was about to face justice. And Tom Chen had been recording more than just that night. He pulled footage from his Ring camera going back 6 months. It showed Hayes driving slowly past Dr. Morris's house 23 times, always slowing down, always staring. He'd been watching her for months. At 7:14 p.m. on October 17th, Tom Chen uploaded his 4-minute video. He posted it to the neighborhood Facebook group. By 7:45 p.m., it was shared to Oakwood Heights Community Watch. That group had 2,100 members. By 8:30 p.m., a local activist shared it on Twitter. It got 15,000 views. By 9:47 p.m., local news saw it while monitoring social media. At 10:15 p.m., the local TV station called for a comment. At 11:00 p.m., it was the lead story on the late-night news. By midnight, the video had 340,000 views. It was on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. The next morning, it was trending. The hashtag was Justice for Dr. Morris. By day 2, national news picked it up. CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News all covered it. By day 3, it had 8.7 million combined views. International news was covering it too. The original Facebook video got 2.1 million views, and 47,000 shares. The Twitter thread got 890,000 likes and 340,000 retweets. TikTok videos about it got 4.3 million combined views. Instagram posts are each 1.5 million people. YouTube news segments got 670,000 views. People were outraged. One comment said, "A surgeon in her own driveway in handcuffs because a neighbor saw a black woman and called 911. This is America." A civil rights lawyer said, "This video shows textbook racial profiling. No reason to stop her. No crime, just bias. The city will pay millions." A surgeon advocacy account said, "Dr. Diane Morris performs miracles daily. She deserved to come home without being treated like a criminal. This officer should never wear a badge again." A local resident said, "I've lived here 30 years. I've never seen police called on white people loading groceries. Never. This is what black professionals face every single day." All 4 local TV stations covered it. 2 newspapers made it their lead story. The New York Times wrote about it. So did the Washington Post and USA Today. A medical journal published an article about racism that healthcare workers face. A law journal analyzed what it meant for civil rights. On October 19th, the mayor made a statement. He said the incident was under investigation. On October 21st, the city council had an emergency session. 200 residents showed up. On October 23rd, the police chief announced a policy review. On October 25th, the city attorney confirmed they were trying to settle. Hayes tried damage control. He posted an apology on Facebook. He said, "If I offended anyone," people got more angry. He deleted it. His lawyer released a statement. It said Officer Hayes was under stress because of his daughter's illness. His wife Jennifer wrote a private apology to Dr. Morris. None of it worked. The video evidence was too clear. Share this story if you think others need to see what really happens. 3 days after the arrest, Officer Marcus Hayes sat in his union rep's office. He watched his career disappear. Meanwhile, Dr. Diane Morris was in surgery doing the job she'd trained 18 years for. She had Emma Hayes' kidney transplant scheduled in 6 days, and the whole world was watching to see if she'd still save the daughter of the man who humiliated her. On October 25th, Dr. Morris filed a federal lawsuit. Her lawyer was David Kowalski. He was a well-known civil rights attorney. She sued Officer Hayes, the city of Oakwood Heights, and the police department. She said they violated her constitutional rights. They illegally detained her. They racially profiled her. They caused her emotional distress. She asked for $25 million. During November and December, they reviewed all the evidence. They found Hayes' pattern. He'd made 47 suspicious person stops. 34 of them, or 72%, were black people, but the district was only 6% black. 0 arrests came from any of those stops. He had 6 complaints about excessive force that the union buried. The department knew about the pattern. They never did anything to stop it. The evidence was overwhelming. 6 videos of the incident. 23 Ring camera videos showing Hayes watching Dr. Morris's home. Internal Affairs reports on Hayes. Testimony from 12 witnesses. Expert testimony about racial profiling patterns. Dr. Morris's medical records showing stress after the incident. In January, the city attorney gave a warning. He said, "We'll lose at trial. The video is too strong. A jury will side with the doctor." The city's insurance company demanded they settle. Hayes was personally on the hook for punitive damages. Insurance wouldn't cover that. Wait until you hear how much they had to pay. On February 12th, they reached a settlement. The city paid Dr. Morris $18.5 million. Officer Hayes personally had to pay $2 million in punitive damages. He'd be paying it back for 20 years. The total was $20.5 million. Hayes' legal fees were $180,000. The union covered that, but there was more. Hayes was permanently banned from law enforcement. The state took away his certification. He could never be a cop again anywhere. He was kicked off Dr. Morris's street. She requested that. He had to do 200 hours of community service at a racial justice organization. He had to give a public apology on the record. He was fired from the police force on November 1st. He lost his pension. He'd worked for 12 years and lost it all. He couldn't work in security or corrections or anything related to law enforcement. His wife Jennifer transferred to a different hospital. It was too uncomfortable staying at the same one. The DA didn't file criminal charges. They said there was no injury, but they said it was close. There was a consent order too. The police department had to do bias training. They had to create an early warning system for officers with profiling patterns. The city had to hire an independent monitor for 3 years. Dr. Morris kept the right to pursue criminal charges if new evidence came up. On March 1st, Hayes read a prepared apology in court. He said, "I let my biases and stress cloud my judgment. Dr. Morris deserve. Ved better, my daughter's illness doesn't excuse my actions. I violated Dr. Morris's rights and dignity. I accept responsibility." But privately, he was bitter. He told friends that cancel culture ruined his life. He moved his family to a different county. He works construction now to pay the settlement. Dr. Morris made a statement through her attorney. She said, "This isn't about money, it's about accountability. No one, whether you're a surgeon or a store clerk, should be treated like a criminal for existing in their own neighborhood. I hope this sends a message that Black professionals are tired of proving we belong." She donated $2 million of the settlement to help victims of racial profiling pay for lawyers. She started something called the Bias-Free Healthcare Workers Initiative. And here's the irony. On October 28th, as scheduled, Dr. Morris did Emma Hayes' kidney transplant. The surgery was successful. Emma's outcome looked excellent. Hayes watched from the waiting room. He couldn't thank the woman he'd wronged. Dr. Morris never spoke to him. She only talked through nurses. The report after surgery said, "Patient doing well, expected full recovery." Emma Hayes is healthy now. She's thriving. She doesn't know her life was saved by the woman her father tried to arrest. Comment below what you think Hayes deserved. On March 15th, Dr. Morris held a press conference. It was outside the federal courthouse. The settlement had just been announced. She said, "For 3 weeks after that night, I couldn't sleep. Every car that slowed near my house made my heart race. I'm a surgeon. I save children's lives with hands that must stay steady. That officer put me in handcuffs so tight they left marks for days. I wondered if I'd be able to operate again." Continued, "I've spent 18 years earning respect in my field. It took 8 minutes for one officer to take away dignity I'd built over decades. Because in his eyes, I didn't belong in my own driveway." She talked about her privilege. She said, "I have resources, I have lawyers, I have a platform, but I think about the cashiers, the nurses, the teachers who face this and have no way to fight back, who can't afford attorneys, who don't have hospital boards defending them. What happens to them?" She had a message for workers. She said, "If you're facing harassment or discrimination, document everything. You have rights. You don't deserve abuse. Your dignity matters whether you're a surgeon or a sales clerk." She spoke to the public too. She said, "To the Margaret Brennans of the world, check your assumptions. I've been your neighbor for 7 years. You knew my name. You knew I'm a doctor. But you saw a black woman with grocery bags and thought crime. That call could have ended very differently. We've seen those outcomes. Ask yourself, would you have called 911 if I were white?" She said what she wanted. "I want police departments to face real consequences for protecting officers with profiling patterns. I want independent oversight. I want data collection on stops. I want accountability before someone gets hurt or killed." She thanked people. "Thank you to Tom Chen for documenting the truth, to my neighbors who stood up, to Metropolitan Hospital for supporting me, to my legal team, and to every person who watched that video and said this isn't okay." She ended with this, "I'm not just a surgeon, I'm a black woman in America, and I shouldn't have to prove I belong in my own home. None of us should. We deserve to exist without explanation, without being questioned, without fear. That's the America I want for Emma Hayes, the girl whose life I saved. I want her to grow up in a country where her father's bias doesn't decide someone else's fate." Dr. Morris's words hit hard across the country, but this case showed something bigger than one officer's prejudice. Studies show black Americans are stopped by police almost 4 times more often than white Americans for suspicious activity. This happens even though black people are only 13% of the population. Most victims don't have Dr. Morris's resources. They don't have $500,000 for lawyers. They don't have a prestigious job that gives them credibility. They don't have 6 videos and 12 witnesses. They don't have viral attention that forces accountability. Most cases get buried. This story matters because it shows what's possible when someone has the tools to fight back. But it also shows how rare that is. So let me ask you, do we really believe a surgeon should need a viral video to get justice when she's arrested in her own driveway? Do we really think police departments will hold themselves accountable when they've spent decades protecting officers with profiling patterns? Do we really accept a system where your ability to fight back depends on whether you're rich enough to afford lawyers, and respected enough that people believe you. Because if we don't fix qualified immunity, if we don't demand independent oversight, if we don't track stop data by race, then we're just waiting for the next Marcus Hayes, the next Diane Morris, the next video that makes us angry for 2 days before we move on. Comment below if you believe police officers who racially profile civilians should lose their badges permanently. If you think stories like this matter, hit that subscribe button. We're going to keep exposing these patterns. We're going to keep demanding better. This isn't just about Officer Marcus Hayes or Dr. Diane Morris. It's about all of us. See you in the next one.